Are we rolling?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Everything But Perfect podcast. I'm your host, Jerica Hirsch.
And I'm your co-host, Tara Mendez.
And we're so glad that you guys chose this episode today to enjoy a little bit of some Bible time with us.
Oh, yeah. It's gonna be fun. What was your...
You got it. You got it.
God.
Every time.
Spirit, help me. What's a way that you saw God this week in your life?
So, I saw God a lot on Sunday when we were at church. I was talking to a guy that works there, and I was sharing about some tough decisions that I have to make. And it was just so encouraging because when I was explaining to him about the vision for this podcast and that we were starting it this week and going down this path with it, you know, switching to a fully Christian podcast, and I was discussing that with him, he was just over the moon about it. And I feel like it's just so nice when you feel supported about a decision that you've been like really thinking about and like kind of iffy about, when someone is just so supportive and like unapologetically excited for you. It's just a great feeling. Like I wish that more people would wear their heart on their sleeve and their emotion on their sleeve and just like show what they feel, you know, instead of like playing it cool. Because that's something I'm trying to work on is like if someone gives me good news, instead of just being like, oh, that's great, like being their support system and being like, I am so happy for you right now, like, and hug them and just tell them like how proud I am and everything. Like that's something that I wish more people would do, is like show just excitement for others. And so I just loved that he did that. It was really encouraging. And then when I was explaining the podcast idea, like how it's going to be a Bible study, and I was explaining it to him, he was like, I can just tell you're so passionate about this. And he was, you know, looking at me and just like so intentfully listening to me. And it just feels really nice when you're excited about something and the person that you're sharing that with is actively listening. Like, I don't know why something as simple as just someone actively listening to you, just, it's like, just like making it so seem nice. Like, like they care. Like, they're like, I am, you know, they're just like looking at you and nodding and like listening. And I just feel like it's because so often in society we're like this, you know, as someone's talking to us, and like we're too busy doing other things. So it was just so like a really beautiful feeling for someone to be like, I'm proud of you, and this seems like the right path. Like I can tell that you're so passionate about it, and you know, just someone else to bounce that idea off of where they're like, I can tell that, you know, you're so passionate about this and you want to do this, and just to like support, even though he's not even like a part of the process, but to just know that we have that support system of people who are so happy for how we're, you know, changing this podcast and doing all that is just a really good feeling. So that's how I saw Jesus this week, is through the love of others and the support system.
I love that. It's so reassuring too. Definitely.
Yeah.
That made me feel better too, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
when I was telling you about it.
Yeah. Like, it just, when you get reassurance like that, you're like, okay, you know, you get reassurance from God, but it's also nice to hear it from someone else too, especially in the church. It's like, okay,
definitely.
I'm for sure making the right decision here. Yeah. But
what about you? How'd you see Jesus this week?
I saw Jesus this week through, again, DMs.
She's famous. Influencer in our midst.
Micro. Just kidding. I got one DM from a stranger that saw one of my TikToks and was asking me how I got so much closer to God. And I don't know, it just warmed my heart because I got to express that to them, kind of like show my ways, what worked for me and what helped me get closer to God. And then someone else that I know pretty well asking me the same thing, like how did this happen? Because it's, you know, he knew me before too, and he was so like excited to see someone that he knew getting saved, and it's a really good feeling. I'm like, yeah, I bet.
No, it's so encouraging.
Yeah. And so that's the way that I saw and felt Jesus this week, especially through that. It's like me getting to share that, because he knows that all I want to do is talk about it. So the fact that he's giving me people, I'm like, yes, let me talk, let me share the goodness of God.
That's the whole point.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very encouraging too, because I don't know, just posting more about it. I mean, at this point, this is about all I post about. So if you don't want to hear about Jesus, don't follow me on Instagram or TikTok.
If they don't want to be hearing about Jesus, they would not be listening to this
That's
episode.
That's
right
true.
now.
Oh yeah, they're already gone after the first one if they didn't want to listen.
True.
But yeah, that's the way, and it made me happy. So
yeah,
one way
no, that's so encouraging. Like, that's similar to even, that encouragement that I was just talking about, when you have someone else like cheering you on.
Yeah.
Being like, you're doing great.
Yeah.
Like, just getting those little messages about, asking like, how did you accomplish this? And, that's so cool and that's so great. And I want to be more like you. That is just like that push forward that you need to.
Yeah, exactly.
To continue on. You know?
Because people can see it coming through you too. And it's just so reassuring and so encouraging. I guess this week was all about reassurance and encouragement.
Yeah. I feel like Jesus has been really providing us with encouragement, like, through this journey.
Yeah, honestly. And it feels really good. But that's because, we're taking it all to him too. So that's been a big help in it also. Yeah. So, yeah. That's what I would say.
I agree.
But
all right. Do you have anything else to say, or should we jump into the episode?
No. Let's jump into it.
Okay. So like we said in last episode, this week we are talking about our favorite Jesus moments. And this is kind of an extension off of the episode that we did about the story of Jesus' birth and him coming down as man to dwell among humans, and, just him being his humble self and teaching us a lot of lessons along the way. And so the Gospels are pretty much the living word of, it's all living word, but the Gospels really dive into what Jesus did on his, like, during his time on earth, and, stories about his life as a human and ways that he, prophesized and showed other humans that he was the Messiah. Yeah. So I think the Gospels are really cool. And if anyone says that the Bible is boring, I'm like, go read the Gospels, because
there's some juicy things in there.
This is a page turner right here.
Flow page turner, can't put it down.
Yeah, so we're starting off with my favorite Jesus moment, and Tara's going in part 2.
Yes. So
this is part 1 of our favorite Jesus moments, and for mine, this is my all-time favorite Jesus story. Like,
it's so good.
Every time I hear it, like, I get chills. I'm like,
so
I just
good. It's so Jesus is so savage. He really is. I
just think it like encapsulates who Jesus was.
Yeah.
As a person so well. Yeah. And the whole point of him being on earth. And I just love it so much. So I guess we can just jump into it. So this is John 8, if you couldn't tell from the title. So flip to John 8, if you will. If you need to pause and read, great. If you've already read it, amazing too. And if you're just seeing it for the first time with us, that's also amazing. So it's called An Adulteress Forgiven. At dawn, he went to the temple again, and all the people were coming to him. He sat down and began to teach. Then the scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman caught in adultery, making her stand in the center. So the Pharisees at this time, in these biblical times, these were like the people. They were so highly educated in theology, so in the Word of God, and they were just like really, they were very high up in society, the Pharisees. And there's a couple times where Jesus has some beef with the Pharisees, and it's, it happens a lot. The Pharisees are not very humble. A lot of them don't accept Jesus Christ as the Savior. They think that it's a load of bullcrap. And so The Pharisees had caught this woman in the act of adultery, which I'm guessing you all know what adultery is, but if you don't, it means that she was sleeping with another man outside of her marriage. And because of this, they made her stand in the center. So now think about this, guys. This woman is standing in the center. They had just caught her in the act of adultery. She is likely naked or close to it, wearing very minimal clothing. Yeah. Teacher, they said to him, this woman was caught in the act of committing adultery. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such a woman. So what do you say? They asked this to trap him in order that they might have evidence to accuse him. So they were trying to get Jesus to say, yep, kill her. Like, she's dead. But he wouldn't say that because this is Jesus. So Jesus stooped down and started writing on the ground with his finger. So if you're driving, don't close your eyes. But if you're not driving and you have a second to just close your eyes and envision this. Envision this naked, vulnerable, scared woman who thinks she's about to die. One of the worst deaths known to man. She's standing in the center of what I'm assuming at this point is a growing crowd of people.
Yeah.
Because they're in the center of the town and Jesus was just about to teach. Most of the town is probably there, accumulating around this woman. Imagine a fight in high school. You're standing in the hallway and people are chanting, fight, fight.
Yeah.
I'm guessing most of us know exactly what I'm talking about. Think about how fast that crowd grows. I mean, this is biblical times. There's not much going on. Yeah. So when a stoning is about to happen and there's drama of adultery, most of the town is going to be there.
Yeah.
So envision this vulnerable, naked, scared woman who thinks she's about to die being brought to shame in front of the town, standing there naked in the center and terrified. Yeah. And now picture Jesus kneeling down in the sand. It says Jesus stooped down and started writing on the ground with his finger. When they persisted in questioning him, he stood up and said to them, the one without sin among you should be the first to throw a stone at her. Then he stooped down again and continued writing on the ground. When they heard this, they left one by one, starting with the older men. Only Jesus was left with the woman in the center. When Jesus stood up, he said to her, woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you? No one, Lord, she answered. Then neither do I condemn you, said Jesus. Go, and from now on, sin no more. I love that story.
That's so good.
It's so good.
It's so good.
So I hope that you had your eyes closed for that if that was at all possible. Or if you have a photographic memory like I do. Not memory, but like I can see things. Yeah. Like I'm able. That's exactly what it is. Yeah, visualization. So I hope that you were able to really visualize this scene and put yourself in her position. A lot of our demographic, a lot of you listening today are young women in your 20s, 30s, 40s. Picture you being her and being drug out into the middle of this town in front of people that you probably grew up with, that she's known her entire life, and standing there naked and vulnerable. Imagine how it feels to stand naked in front of people.
Yeah, exactly.
You're so vulnerable in that moment. You're so exposed. And not only is she exposed physically, but she's exposed spiritually as well, because she has been caught in the act of something that was punishable by death. And so, she's standing in the middle. They're trying to get Jesus to gang up on her with them. They're accusing her of adultery, of these horrible things. And she's scared. And at that point, I think is when we need Jesus the most.
Yeah. So
I love that visualization of Jesus being there in this woman's time of need. And picture the growing crowd. And it doesn't say this here, but I would assume that they're surrounding her and calling her really terrible names.
Yeah.
I can just envision them saying some terrible things about this woman.
Yeah.
And in the time when she needed it most, it says, Jesus stooped down and started writing in the ground with his finger. When they persisted in questioning him, he stood up and said to them, the one without sin among you should be the first to throw a stone at her. Then he stooped down again and continued writing on the ground. What I love about this part, even before we get into the whole judgment thing and all of that, I love the picture that this paints of Jesus stooping down and writing in the sand, because to me, what I'm grabbing from this is that Jesus was taking the attention off of the naked woman in that moment.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
Instead of standing next to her saying like, oh,
yeah,
those without sin among you should be the ones to throw the first stone. No, he's drawing attention and their gaze away from her standing there shamefully. He's drawing their attention to the ground and to what he's writing. So she's no longer feeling as exposed as she was, because all eyes aren't on her anymore. He's drawing that attention to himself and to the ground. So I love that picture because it just shows how loving Jesus is.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. I think too that's my favorite part, where he says, basically, if you're without sin, you throw the first stone at her. And it just, we can relate that to today so much. It's because we're so quick maybe to judge, someone else for their sins, and anything that they do is wrong, but we don't check ourselves before that. And it's just such a powerful thing that he says, because it's saying, you've all done this, you've all done, maybe not that, but you have all sinned, like you have all done wrong. Who are you to cast judgment? Yeah, exactly. And I just think I just love that when he says that. It's so, I don't even know the word, but it's like just thrown in their face, like, yeah, what about it now? And then the fact that they slowly start walking away. It's like, yeah, all of you have sinned. You don't have any right to judge. And it's just so good. Yeah, because I definitely want to dig into more of that, like explaining like why, what he said, why he said what he said and everything. I want to ask you guys, what do you think stoning is? So really think about the process of stoning. And I'm sure when you hear about stoning, our minds are kind of tricked into not thinking very gruesome thoughts. Like when you hear the word stoning, you're not going to think about just how terrible it is. Like you're like, oh yeah, that would be a bad way to go. But you're not really dwelling on that fact. Yeah. Right? No. So how long do you think that stoning usually took? They usually did it until they were dead. Yeah. Right? Yeah. They would. Yeah. It's crazy. But when I first think of stoning before, how I would think about it before, it's like little pebbles. Exactly. That, like, that it doesn't seem that bad until I realized that they do it until you're dead. Yeah. Like that just sounds so brutal, It's probably one of the worst ways to go. I mean, I would think so. I can't imagine at all. No. And it's until like, you're dead, that's a lot. It's your bones breaking. It's, your blood vessels crushing stone by stone. It's horrific. Yeah. And I don't mean to say this stuff to make anyone uncomfortable, but I think that it's something that when we read the Bible, we can't skim over these little details. This is a horrific way to go. And in today's world, you might think, well, adultery, as terrible as that is, sleeping with someone else as you're married, someone wouldn't get stoned for that, you may think. Yeah. No. In some parts of the Middle East, it is very much still happening. Yeah. Very much still happening. And so I think it's important to understand what is truly happening in this scene. So stoning was a form of execution in which groups would throw stones at the person until they were dead. And a rock or a pebble is not a stone, you guys. Like, don't be picturing these little stones. No, it says that they would try to pick stones that were about the size of the person's hand. That's now crazy. Think about the men who are throwing these stones at this woman. Their hands are much bigger than even mine.
and mine's what, the size of my head?
Pretty big.
Could you imagine a stone that big? Now get this. They would pick stones that were not too big though, because that would cause too quick of a death.
That's crazy.
Yeah. When they were being told, like when stoning was really becoming like a normal form of execution, it was like written in the law that you would grab a stone about the size of your hand because you wouldn't want to do bigger because it would be too quick of a death. Wrap your head around that.
Crazy.
For adultery.
Something that seems like so normal today.
It's like,
crazy.
so, yeah.
It's sad to say, but
it's still a terrible thing.
Yeah.
Like, even, if I were to find out that Michael had slept with someone else, I would be heartbroken, but I wouldn't want him to be stoned to death.
Get the stones. I know, it's terrible.
Like, oh my gosh, it's so horrific for something that is so normalized in today's world.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the fact that like 99% of people who were dying from stonings were women.
Yeah.
Because of adultery. Think about all the men who are sleeping with other women.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Yeah. It's true.
They weren't dying by stone because of adultery. Men back in this time, it was okay for them to go off and sleep with so-and-so, but the women had to be the virgins before marriage. And if they weren't, then they were dirty and no one wanted to marry them. That's a whole other topic for another time, though. That's a can of worms. So, not too large because that would cause too quick of a death. So, how long do you think that it would take for someone to die from stoning?
Let me think of the size of the stone. Maybe like
if they're continuously throwing stones.
12 hours?
Oh, you think 12 hours?
Is it less than that?
Yeah, it's definitely less. So in quicker cases, it would take about 30 minutes.
Oh, dang. Okay, they're really like throwing these. I don't think I'm comprehending of how. I'm thinking of like one stone at a time.
No, it's a whole group of people,
okay.
like at once, you're getting hit from all sides.
Okay, that makes more sense. Okay, I take my answer back.
That's the quickest that it would happen is half an hour. Think about a half an hour of laying there getting pelted by stones.
No, thanks.
Like a half an hour of pure pain. But that's as quick as it would happen. Likely it would take a couple of hours. Now wrap your head around that. Hours to die. Now I'm not saying this to be gruesome and a Debbie Downer and, make you really sad on your way to work or whatever you're doing. But this is crucial to understanding the story and just how amazing it was that Jesus was there to save this woman from this fate.
Yeah.
Because this is what she would have endured had Jesus not been there to stand up for her and show her love and no judgment in that moment.
So true.
So I think that is a really big key takeaway that isn't really discussed in the verse itself. So I just wanted you guys to have that better understanding of what stoning really is. I mean, it's definitely a big part of this story. So
yeah, brutal.
Yeah, but now I don't know. Do you want to jump into like your key takeaways from this verse?
I mean, mostly of what I had said earlier about, not judging anyone for sinning and thinking we're better than them, because most of the time we do sin in our everyday lives and we don't realize, there's a lot of things that are sinful. And I will definitely catch myself when I'm, maybe starting to judge someone for a particular thing that they're doing. And I'll stop myself because at one point I was doing the same thing and I was there. And knowing how long it took me to really live as much as I possibly can every day like Jesus, realizing how long it took me to get there and not judging someone for what they're doing, because we were the same at one point. I just think really, I forget what, I think it's in Matthew, but I forget what verse it is, but it basically says, why are you pointing out the log in someone else's eye when you have, you know, you don't recognize the splinter in your own. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's about judgment.
I think it's the other way around. I think,
isn't it?
Is it like,
oh, the splinter in someone's eye?
Who are you to judge like the splinter in somebody's eye when you have a log sticking out of your own?
That's what it was. Yeah. So I do go back to that verse sometimes too when I catch myself judging, because I'm like, okay, well, just because I am, you know, I'm further in the journey of following Jesus and my faith and everything, I still do things wrong every day, you know, and maybe it doesn't seem as bad as the sins I was doing before, but all sin is the same. It's sin no matter what, you know? Yeah. So I think bringing all those to the same level, that sin is sin and it still hurts God no matter, you know, if it's murdering someone or if it's gossiping about someone, it's still sin. Yeah. Which is 100%. It's crazy. So that's my key takeaway from it too, is really don't judge anyone for the sins that they're doing, because you probably have a long list of them that you're doing. Yeah.
I feel like a big reason why we tend to do that, like judging the splinter in someone else's eye when we have a log sticking out of our own, or that saying of like casting, like, what is it? Throwing rocks at like a glass house or something. So I think why people do that is to make themselves feel better for the sins that they're committing. So like you were saying, how murder is equal on a scale to gossiping or to sex before marriage, or, you know, not controlling your tongue, which can be gossiping, or cussing, or, you know, these things that happen in everyday life that everybody does. Like, I mean, I know I curse sometimes and I gossip and I shouldn't. It's equal. And like, you guys might be sitting there rolling your eyes and being like, Jerica and Tara, what are you talking about? Like, murder is obviously way worse. To us, to humans, like, yes, taking someone's life is more severe than gossiping, but to God, this is what matters, guys. Not what we think, not what our scale looks like, because we're like a society, but in God's eyes, sin is sin, period. Period. And I loved how our pastor put it when he said that like sin is like an odor to God. And everything, like all sin is an odor. Nothing stinks worse than something else. It's all bad smells, in his view. I think you should go into talking a little bit about, I loved when you were telling me about like your drinking journey and how you decided to stop drinking, but you were maybe like a little bit quick to judgment on friends that had still been drinking, and you kind of had to realize like, I shouldn't be judging, you know? If you want to talk about that a little bit.
Definitely. I think when I was, you know, I was at a 4-year college and I was drinking every weekend, you know, sometimes 3 days a week, 4 days a week, because, you know, it seems like sometimes all there is to do is party and drink. And especially when everyone else is doing it, it's really easy to fall into that. And so when so a lot of my journey is little by little. It wasn't just one big thing where I wiped out everything. So with the drinking, you know, I was kind of dabbling in God and faith and Christianity. I stopped going out as much. I would still sometimes and get drunk, and then it slowly turned into only having a couple and maybe getting buzzed. And then it turned into driving to places but still going out, and maybe having one drink. That way I could still drive. And then after that, it would be, I mean, I guess that goes in with each other, is like maybe going to dinner or something, having a glass of wine or a beer, which there's nothing wrong with that. And then at about a month ago now, I think, because I was tracking it, I decided to just go completely sober. And this wasn't
turkey.
Yeah. It's not, I'm telling myself I'm just taking it by, like, I have no desire to at all whatsoever. And I do enjoy, I like the taste of beer. I know some people are like, oh, it's so gross, but I do. Or I like a glass of wine. And there's nothing wrong with that. And it doesn't say that having alcohol is a sin in the Bible. It's, getting drunk, and that's when it becomes a problem. But I think, deciding to do that is what felt right in my heart, and I just don't have a desire for it anymore. And it does get way easier because I realized that I don't need it to have fun, because that was the biggest thing too. It's like, how can I have fun without alcohol? Because to me it seems so fun. But once you start following God, really seriously, and I didn't like the things I did when I was drinking, and I didn't want that guard to be taken down, because even when you start getting a little bit of a buzz, it's like that like armor starts coming up a little bit, and you would maybe think things that you usually wouldn't, or do things you usually wouldn't.
Well, the enemy has like a chance to really slip in when your guard is down, and when your like brain isn't fully
exactly
aware.
So that's what would happen. And I came to a point where I was just not happy with the decisions I made when I was drinking, and just the fact that I wanted to make God proud, and I wanted to live more like Jesus, and I knew that's something that I would have to cut out. And maybe someday I will have a glass of wine or a beer, but for right now I just want to go. I don't have any desire to ever drink again, especially because I found a lot of brands are making non-alcoholic beverages, like beer. I think Coors has one, Budweiser has one, 0% alcohol, so I still get the taste, but I don't even desire to be drunk or buzzed anymore. I don't like the feeling of it, like I just want the taste of it. And then I just found Target had a rosé that's 0% alcohol. I just think it's cool. Like, it's cool that it's becoming a little bit normal that brands are making non-alcoholic drinks. I think it's super cool. But going off topic there, when I started cutting back the drinking, it was hard to hang around that kind of environment where there was drinking, because I was still I think I was telling you, where I'm like, I'm just not in the position yet to where I can be around drunkenness, and maybe something that is sinful, like, yes, still there when I'm still working to want to cut it out, because I actively did want to cut it out. I didn't want to drink anymore, but it was difficult for me, and so it was hard to hang around friends that were still drinking, and I tried not to judge very much, because I was going, I was doing that at one point. So I would have to catch myself a lot when going through this, being like, okay, well, that's very hypocritical of you to be judging. Like, everyone's on their own journey, and you don't have any right to judge of who does what. And so I really think, that's something I learned, that I'm not, judging anyone for drinking, and I don't want that to be the main takeaway. I don't think it's good to get drunk, because obviously in the Bible it says not to be drunk. And I'm just like, I think what it really is I'm just trying to live more, what it says in the Bible. So,
'cause you can't argue that.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
But now it's like, I can be around drinking, I can be around partying, and I still have a good time. It's just, honestly, it's the attitude and the way, like, realizing you don't need a substance to have a good time. And I'll have a good time sober. And it's helping me be more comfortable, I think, in a situations like that, where maybe, we're out and people are drinking and stuff. Like, I could still have a good time without drinking. And so now I can be around that, and I can be around, if I had to, around people partying. Because now when I'm in that area or around people like that, it's so crazy that my mind shifts, and it's not enjoyable to me anymore. Like, it just serves me no purpose, and I just feel like I don't really want to be here. Just watching everyone that's super drunk, I'm just like, oh, this is not, like, I don't feel comfortable. You're
just at a different like spot. And
yeah,
I know. I think that's beautiful. Like, I love that testimony.
Yeah,
so much, because I do know, even just like a month or two ago, you had were having to catch yourself and be like, I need to stop judging, like, because that was me. And I'm just, the fact that I'm just a little bit more mature in my faith journey and I'm deciding to take a different journey, like doesn't equal me being able to cast these judgments on people who are still going out and, you know, trying to figure out how, you know, that's going to change for them.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I think that's such a beautiful testimony, and like just such a it just shows like your humility and your ability to just notice, like, okay, like being able to check yourself is such a like blessing, you know, from God, like that really. Discernment and just being able to know like, okay, I'm doing it again, like stop judging, like, you know. No,
it's really the Holy Spirit will really put you in check, like he'll catch you real quick. It's 100%. Like, oh, never mind. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. But no, it's and I'm not saying, you know, I'm better for not drink, as like I'm better than someone else for not drinking, because, you know, I don't think that. It's just what I think I needed to do in order to grow that relationship with God. And even that's just, it's kind of a challenge right now. I mean, I tell people now that I don't drink anymore because I want it to be like that for the rest of my life. But again, we're just going to take it day by day, because who knows. But that's the journey right now, is sober for life. But yeah, so.
Yeah, no, I love that. I definitely got the same takeaway, like no judgment. I also, like, another takeaway that I got that we kind of already touched on is like no one is better than the next person. Like all sin is bad. All sin is seen as just sin in God's eyes, which we touched on earlier. Kind of going back to the verse itself, I just love how Jesus, you know, he stoops down and then they're still questioning him. They're still bugging him. They're like, Jesus, like, are you going to do something about this woman? Like, are we stoning her or what? Like, time's a ticking. And he stands up and without missing a beat, he just says, the one without sin among you should be the first to throw a stone at her. And then he gets back down to writing. Now, it doesn't say what he was writing in the sand, but I think that what we can assume he's writing is their sins.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because then they started slowly walking way after. After that, oh, yeah,
they were getting called out. Yeah, they didn't like it.
Like, oh, and wait a second.
And so they started walking away because, like, they knew, like, Jesus is all knowing. He is God, and he knows the sins that they're committing, and he knows about this woman's sins. Mm-hmm. And he's saying, he's writing their sins out. He's probably writing in the sand, like, they're probably adulterers.
Yeah.
They're gossipers. Maybe they've killed somebody. They, you know, they're judging. That's a sin in itself.
Yeah, exactly.
He's writing out he's airing the tea. Jesus is essentially...
He is.
He's calling him out.
He's airing him out.
And they don't like it. And so they start to walk away. So I think that verse, like that little segment of this verse is such a key takeaway. Just the fact that Jesus, instead of calling out her sin and being like, you're right, it does say in the law of Moses that she should be stoned. Mm-hmm. He gets down and he uses it as a lesson to say, why are we judging one another?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you have never sinned, which the only person that could have thrown a stone at that woman would be Jesus.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
Jesus would have been the only one stoning her based off of what he said. Yep. Because no one else is without sin. It's physically impossible to be a human without sin, unless you are Jesus. But that's because he was also part God.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So I just love that. He's calling people out.
It's so good.
I just think it's such a big clap back. They're like,
it really is. It's savage.
Okay, God, time to stone her. Like, let's go. And he's like, okay, go for it. If you've never sinned before.
Boom. Like, how that's just such a good clap back. No, I love it. Jesus is savage for that.
Yeah.
But
I love it. And then the final thing that I wanted to pick apart pick out of this verse is the end here when it says when Jesus stood up. So now at this point, it's only him and the woman left in the center of the circle. and in the center of town, because everyone else had walked away. They were feeling called out. They didn't love it. So they left. Now it's saying, when it was just him and the woman left in the center, Jesus stood up. He said to her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" He's pretty much saying, where'd they go?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Crazy.
They're gone. He's saying, where are the people that condemned you? Where are the people that drug you out of your house naked and made you stand here in humiliation? Where did they go? And she's saying, no one, Lord. No one's condemning her. They all ran away. They ran away scared. No one, Lord, she answered. I love this. He says, then neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. And I just think that paints such a beautiful picture of the forgiveness in Jesus Christ. And
1,000%.
a thing that I love about this too, like reading into this a little bit more, is that at this point, Jesus had not died. I mean, duh, he's in the flesh right now. He has not died for our sins. Up until Jesus dies for your sins, like it was not automatic forgiveness. That was not a thing. You would have to, I mean, if you've ever read the Old Testament, the stuff that they had to do for forgiveness, my goodness, they were killing animals left and right. I'm surprised that there was any left. And so this is pre-Jesus' death, dying for our sins. And this is just such a beautiful picture of the forgiveness that was to come in his death, dying for us.
Yeah.
Because he says, then neither do I condemn you.
Yeah.
And then instead of standing there and being like, you're, dumb. I can't believe that you went and you sinned and you were sleeping with another guy. Like, that's terrible of you. He could have called her names. He could have torn her down like the people of the town were. But instead of doing that, he says, go and sin no more. And he lets her go.
Yeah.
He doesn't say, well, I'm the Messiah and I'm Jesus Christ and sin is disgusting to me and I'm judging you and blah, blah, blah. He's just saying, go and sin no more.
Yeah. I love it. It's such a, like you said, it's such a good picture of how forgiving Jesus was and is,
Yeah.
I don't know. It warms my heart is what I'm trying to say. That he just was so, he doesn't, no judgment, no anything. He's just like, you're good. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Don't try not to do it again.
Yeah. But maybe don't do it again. But
yeah, it's like,
if you do, that's the reason Jesus is here.
He'll forgive you. You are made brand new every day.
Yeah.
Your sins are washed away.
I know. I just love everything about this verse. Like, I just feel like it encapsulates Jesus and his love and his forgiveness and his, all of that. And I don't know. Do you have any other takeaways from this verse?
No, I think I said all that I wanted to say. It's just a great story, honestly. It's one of the really good ones. They're all great, but that one is definitely a really good one. So hopefully that made it easy to understand. And now you know the definition of stoning.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
Gruesome.
Sorry. It had to be said.
It had to. Had to give you a visual.
But this story is just amazing. It like actually brings me to tears every time that
It is. It really is. Because
I just think that the Bible is so beautiful in the fact that these passages are quite short.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty short.
This story is from 8:2 to 8:11.
Yeah.
9 lines long. And we were able to dissect it into like a 50-minute episode.
Yeah, no, exactly.
It's just, that's the beauty about how the Bible is written, is it's written in terms that are so black and white and so simple and straightforward, but there's just so much depth to the stories, the fact that all that it has to say is that this woman was caught in the act of adultery and they drug her out like to the center of the town. From that we can pull that she was probably naked and scared and afraid, and then when it says like he was drawing on the sand with his finger and he was writing things, it doesn't say that he was writing their sins, but just from the fact that they were walking away one by one in shame and no longer wanting to hurt this woman shows that Jesus was humbling them a bit. And, you know, he was probably calling them out. Yeah, it's just so beautiful. It's just so beautifully written. And we just encourage you to just dive into the Bible. It can be really scary. It can be intimidating. It's quite large. It is. Heavy and, you know, big words. We struggle with the words. But I just hope that from this podcast, you guys are able to take away like what's going on and learn with us and kind of just start digging into the word a little bit. Yeah. And we're just excited to see where it goes. I know I'm just so excited. Yeah, no, that's the whole goal of it too, because when I first had gotten baptized, I definitely needed something like this to help me understand. I mean, I didn't open the Bible for, you know, a couple months after I got baptized because it's so intimidating. It's such a big book and it seems so complex, but you really learn it the most when you do dissect scripture. And even just a short story like that, just writing out notes and making, you know, how you interpreted it, and it makes it easier to understand too when you do relate it to today's, because you can relate most of all these stories to today times 100%. You know, so that's why we started doing this, and we switched, you know, our whole podcast is to hopefully help anyone. But if you know, do need help reading the Bible and understanding, hopefully that's what we can bring to you too, and just really helping you understand, not making it seem so intimidating is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Because it really is. I mean, I thought the Bible was boring too, but it's like, I mean, some juicy things in here. Yeah. Hello. Like the story. Yeah. So I don't know. That's our whole goal with this too, is just to reach as many, you know, that we're supposed to, and help as many as we're supposed to too. So yeah, we're both really excited, but hopefully you took something away from that today. Yeah. So if you stayed until the end of the episode, we're really glad that you did. And we hope that you guys were able to take away like from this story and even go and study it deeper on your own. Yeah. Because I mean, this is just such a great example of Jesus and who he was as a person, and just so beautiful. So we encourage you to continue reading on your own, revisit this verse and write down your own thoughts about it. Yeah. You know, you might get something different from it than even what we did. Yeah. True. So we just love you so much. We appreciate you guys listening. And yeah, next episode will be Tara's favorite story. So we're excited for that. 2. But we just love you guys so much. Most importantly, oh no. Well, I guess you gotta pause it. Do we need the cutout? Is it going? Yeah. Okay. We just love you guys so much, but most importantly, Jesus loves you. Yes, so much. He does. And he wants a relationship with you. Yes. And we're so glad that you guys are listening, and definitely tune in next week. We appreciate it a lot. Yes. Leave us a 5-star review if so inclined. If it is in your heart too. Yes, if it's in God's will. Yeah. But yeah, we will talk to you guys next week. Bye.